All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome one and welcome all inside the Prospect Planner, part of the iBaseball Network and part of High and Tight, in which we cover the pursuit of the collegiate game and beyond, on and off the field. From tips, tricks, technology help, and a whole lot more. We go through a lot of fun times. And hey, brought the hat here to talk a lot about it here as we get rocking and rolling here with another edition of our Prospect Planner once again. I am Andrew Brown, happy to be with you here as we continue to rock and roll. I will say, don't forget that there is a lot across the iBaseball network for you guys to get involved with. Check out. And I guarantee you, you'll enjoy a lot of it. I say that one from our bat giveaway. So again, our giveaway of our Greenlight Victus bat that has been signed by Mitch Keller and Tyler Cropley, and it could be yours. Again, we've been getting a lot of names into the mix. We're going to spin that wheel, and again, for to show you that we are doing it as even and as fair as possible. We're going to do it right alongside with you. We're going to spin that wheel, and whoever it lands on ends up getting that, and we'll ship it right to you. But again, that is coming on up, so make sure to stay tuned with that. But right now, ladies and gentlemen, we do, in fact, continue on. And again, I want to say that thank you for tuning in, making this a part of your day. We are from the main studio here, as you can see. We got a lot of fun and a lot of things in store. So let's just dive right into it here. We're talking about diving into Major League Baseball spring training. What happened there? And I only say that from the vantage point of we had some boots on the ground as well as catching some collegiate games and a whole lot of fun there. And so we'll bring in the guy that was the boots on the ground, the guy that helps us out with all of this and gets this part rolling here. It's the one and only Chad Erickson of RDA Financial as he joins us. And Chad, I will officially be the first one to say I am jealous. I didn't get the chance to go out there and enjoy the great Arizona weather. You did. So, again, a little bit jealous, but glad you're back. Glad we could get this rolling.
So happy to be back here, and I'm glad the weather's better than it was when I left. So I did have to endure some sub-zero temperatures. I didn't miss all of those days
Oh,
entirely,
good.
but I missed some of them.
So you really
Hey,
got to experience all
thankfully.
a little bit.
So right, yeah, I didn't miss out on all of it, but a couple of days, a couple of days. It was a little touch and go. I drive a diesel. I drive a Volkswagen diesel, and I tell you what, those days when it's double digits below zero, it really makes me nervous.
Oh,
So
I could.
thankfully, no gelling up. Got to the airport and got out of town, so it was good. It was a good trip.
Well, there you go. Hey, you got the chance to get out and catch a lot of things. And, one of the things that I wanted to start with here is what you experienced here because spring training is in full swing. It's been there, it's just about to get to the middle point here soon. But first and foremost, you got the chance to double dip. You did some Chicago Cubs look, and of course, you got some collegiate look in there as well. Let's first off, again, jealousy sets in here because you got the chance to see some really great teams out in Arizona. Take us through what your collegiate experience was first and foremost. Let's go there, and then we'll see kind of what else we can gauge from that.
Okay. Well, Oral Roberts was visiting Arizona State, so I caught a game on a Friday evening
Okay.
at Arizona State, and it was an action-packed game. Oral Roberts came out on top, but they didn't score the go-ahead run until the top of the ninth. So that was really really exciting, but heartbreaking for the Sun Devils. And I root for the Sun Devils, so it was a little tough. But I tell you what, saw a lot of good baseball. Oral Roberts in the game that I saw, they hit the ball very very well. Will Edmondson, their right fielder and leadoff hitter, holy smokes, that guy put on a show. Every ball he hit was hit very very hard, and and he was up to the plate 5 times and got on base all 5 times. So he was really the star of the game, and I was really impressed with his approach at the plate, and so good start to the season for him. And the really unique thing about this game, in my opinion, Ben Jacobs was carving the starter for Arizona State. He had 11 strikeouts in 5 innings of work. Gave up 4 hits, but 3 of those hits were solo home runs, and those balls were crushed. So he was throwing a lot of strikes, obviously, but Oral Roberts came out on top, and it was a well played ball game. Both teams hit the ball pretty well, and so that was a fun night at the ballpark, and got to spend some time with my son at the game, and then on Sunday went and saw the Cubs and the Rangers play.
Nice.
So got to see a couple of little champions playing for the Rangers were in the lineup. Cubs had a few starters in the lineup as well, and you also got to see some prospects play, which is nice.
Yep.
I was hoping Matt Shaw would be healthy. Nico Hoerner is a favorite of mine, but he's not healthy either.
Yeah.
So I miss seeing those guys, but it was a great day at the ballpark. Low 80s temperature wise, as always in Arizona, plenty of sun, and a lot of great people watching. One thing that we were debating, a friend of mine was with us at the game, and he was discussing what is an allowable jersey when you're rooting for a team. And so he was getting upset about, and he's a really high emotion, high intensity kind of guy. So it's really funny to listen to him talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
And so we were walking around the ballpark, and you're seeing Chris Bryant jerseys, you're seeing Anthony Rizzo jerseys, Javier Baez, and he's just like, stop. We got to stop living in the past. You can't be wearing those jerseys. And then we started talking and having a debate about what's an acceptable jersey to wear to your team's game. If you're going to wear a jersey, is it appropriate to wear a jersey of a guy that played with the team, 3, 4, 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Or is it more appropriate to stick to Hall of Fame players? This was kind of what the consensus was building to.
Yeah.
Jersey's got to be a Hall of Fame player. Someone who's been there within a year or two, but beyond 3 years is a no-go. Okay. And if you are wearing one of those jerseys, like we agreed, Kyle Hendricks, he just left the Cubs. Kyle Hendricks is okay this season, but not next season.
Okay.
And, Hall of Famers are okay anytime.
Yep, I agree.
And it's debatable whether or not team Hall of Famers can be worn at any time. We didn't kind of come to a consensus on that one. So at any rate, just kind of an interesting conversation and debate that we had. It was pretty humorous. So that's the other fun part about spring training is the games aren't as intense, so you get to kind of amuse yourselves a little bit too while you're enjoying the ball game.
Well, that brings up an interesting thing. I haven't thought about that, but anybody out there with thoughts, hit us up. The comment bar should be open. What are your thoughts? What is the line of acceptability to wear jerseys? Where does the line end for you guys? Let us know. Hit us up. We'd love to have that kind of conversation with you as well. That brings up a really intriguing topic. For me, Chad, I'll be honest, I'm not a huge jersey buyer. I have some some fun jerseys, like when the Braves won the 2021 World Series. I have it's a jersey, but it just has a list of all the guys with the, kind of like an acrostic poem of just all the letters of all the guys that were a part of the team. And so it's a jersey, but it's kind of a fun, different jersey.
Yep.
So I would say those could also count,
Yep.
but I I do like your take. For me, I get jerseys, and I'm a Packers fan. I have a Jordy Nelson jersey, and that's been long ago since he was relevant. And I have a John Smoltz jersey, so that can work in my favor there too. But I also want, this is interesting, not being a Cubs fan for me, because I think if you're a Yankee fan or a Boston fan, or you're even a Dodgers fan, I think that would apply. The 3-year rule would apply. I think even more so. But I wonder here, because of the Cubs' long stretch of not having won a World Series, and you talk about a lot of the guys who made that happen, made that World Series win happen. I wonder, is it okay to give a little leeway there? Is it okay to say, these guys brought a title home, or does it still apply? Does the 3-year rule still apply, even if those guys helped end one of the longest droughts in sports history?
Well, that was a hotly debated point, right? So, really, where we ended up was if you have a current player, that's okay.
Current
Hall
players,
of Fame
okay.
player, Hall of Fame player, that's okay.
Okay.
Star player that's recently left, that's okay, but not beyond 3 years, including the stars that played in the World Series. Even though they got you a World Series, it's time to move on. We want another World Series. We can't be living in the past, right?
Yeah.
So that's really where the consensus ended, and so, but that could certainly be debated. Now, for me, I think it would have mattered if Rizzo, Baez, Bryant, those guys moved on to other teams and were star players when they moved to other teams. Schwarber was another one. Now, Schwarber certainly a star player, but man, because we saw some Schwarber jerseys.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
We also saw a Carlos Quintana jersey, and I tell you what, that really got us off kilter to see his jersey. But one of the people that we talked about was John Lester, right?
Yeah.
He could potentially be a Hall of Famer, but he's not there yet. It might take a Veterans Committee to get him into the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean that was one that we really, I don't think we came to a consensus on whether John Lester jersey was appropriate or not. But anyway, that's where we were on it, and it certainly is a debatable thing, And I also understand, hey, everybody's on a budget. I, like you, Andrew, I'm not really a jersey buyer.
Yeah.
So who am I to have an opinion about it?
Yeah.
But and I think also if a kid's got a jersey, like I saw a little kid with a Javier Baez jersey, that's totally okay. Like, kids grow fast.
Yeah.
Jerseys are expensive, and the kids just trying to be a part of the game. So cut them some slack. But adults, you get no slack. You get judged immediately.
I love it. And hey, you know what? I'm glad we had the boundaries now drawn here, and that's great. If I ever think about getting a jersey, and I will say this too, I think it is applicable across any sport. I think it's safe to say, no matter what, no matter the sport, if there's a jersey component to it, yeah, I like that. I can get behind that. 3 years, I can get behind that. That works for me. Again, ladies and gentlemen, here we are on the Prospect Planner here. Again, on the hotline, we have the one and only Chad Erickson of RDA Financial joining us as we talk a whole lot. We're starting right now talking about spring training and the fact that he got to see Arizona State in action collegiately and the Cubs a little bit. But, Chad, I know there's some more Cubs fans out there, obviously. And I got to ask your thoughts on where Chicago lands right now. And I want to ask that from the standpoint of the division, of where they sit, the Central. Where How confident are you in saying that the Cubs will I'll just go ahead and say it, take the Central Crown this year? How confident are you to say something like that? And where do you see the Cubs with the moves that they have made? Is it enough for you? Can you confidently say that the Cubs can win it this year?
Well, I am. I think the Cubs have made enough moves in the offseason. Did they do everything that I hoped that they would? No. But I think that they're doing some of the right things. I was hoping they'd get Alex Bregman signed. Obviously, that didn't happen. I think they were willing to pay $30 million a year, but the Red Sox offered $40 million a year, and they did the salary deferral thing. As far as what I understand of how they structured his contract,
Yeah.
the Cubs have come out and openly stated that that is not something that they've been discussing as an option for the Cubs organization. I think as time goes on, if more teams are going to do this salary deferral, they're going to be pushed into a position to keep up with the rest of the league.
Yeah.
My thoughts on the salary deferral thing are probably not good for the players and probably not good for the game, because I think as time goes on, I mean, you look at Otani's deferral, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so they're really not paying him anything right now, but you're
True.
going to have a whatever 10 or 20 million plus dollar allotment to him off into the distance, and how is that going to, it's kind of like if you ran your household and everything that you bought it on credit, and so you make just a few small payments for years and years and years, and then all of a sudden you've built up all, and these dollars are coming due.
Yeah.
And what does that do to your financial situation? I know as a household that's not a good idea. From my expertise in the financial services industry, debt's not a good thing, and I understand that these teams are putting away real money, and keeping that money aside, earning dollars, to pay these future obligations.
Mm-hmm.
But different things can happen in between now and then, and so I would rather see teams spend the money they have now on the team that they have now, and not fall into a situation where, okay, now a decision we made 10 years ago is affecting decisions we are making for our team right now today.
Yeah.
And I think that's not a good idea. But that's where the league is now. That's where they're getting, and I think the Players Association has to really take a long look at that as well, because if you look at the present value of the $600 million contract that Otani has, that the present value of that money, he's really not making what he should.
Yeah.
When you do the math, it's very favorable to the Dodgers. I know that I said that the Dodgers are creating problems for themselves out into the future, which they are, because they're deferring payments.
Yep.
But those payments are deferred, and there's math involved in bringing those dollars to present day to be paid out in the future. So the present day dollars are worth less in today's dollars, that present value is worth a lot less than what the face value of that contract is worth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why teams are more apt to go down that road because they get to pay out a $600 million contract with like 380 million. I'm sorry, a $600 million contract with like 380 million or something like that.
Yeah.
I haven't done the math, but that discount is pretty steep. So I hope, if we have math nerds on here, they can probably figure out the exact dollar amount, and I'm sure that's out there, but I haven't done it, and I can't do that. I can't do present value off the top of my head, so just bear with me.
Yeah, I got you.
But so that's an interesting thing. I'm not so sure in the long run if teams are really going to like what they've done, and I don't think the Players Association is going to like it either, because it is hindering what teams can do out into the future.
Yeah. Well, and I'm with you there. I like it. And we'll get into this here in just a bit, what the Dodgers are doing necessarily. Is it good for the game of baseball and all that they're doing? I think, again, when you defer that money, honestly, I don't like it going for the generality of players in Major League Baseball, because Ohtani is going to be fine. He's making $50 million off of sponsorship deals alone. He's going to be just fine. But the average guy, if it starts inking into, guys who are not Ohtani, I know Bregman's still a top tier star, but you get guys who aren't that, are good players but not that level, and you start going down the line. If you start deferring all that money, as a player who's not Ohtani or not a big time star, then it can get a little. You're right. It can get dicey, and I feel like it can negatively impact things. I think that the Dodgers are kind of playing a risk here a little bit. I'm with you. I think they're the team that can financially withstand all that deferred money coming all at once later on down the road. I think they can withstand it, but I just fear that if the Cubs are pushed that direction, are we going to see, 5 to 7 year spans of teams that are unable to get out of their debt and unable to buy talent because they're in debt from all this deferred? And I mean, we laugh every year at Happy Bobby Bonilla Day, but it just goes to show how disastrous that could be. And you're right. It's easy to see now, but things can pop up. And you don't want to have to pay Bobby Bonilla times 10 down the road, and still paying guys even though they're no longer playing. So I think that I hope the game doesn't go that way. I hope Major League Baseball kind of steps in and the players union a little bit and says, hey, there's only so much you can do. I mean, I like guys going and going where they can get money. That's great, but it can get a little dicey there, but
well, I will say that it's frustrating, and I was frustrated. In fact, I filled out a survey because I got a survey from the Cubs organization after I went to the game on Sunday.
Oh, nice!
And I filled out the survey. I got just a regular plain hot dog. It cost me $9.
Oh.
20-ounce bottle of Coke was $8, and an old style was $15.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think my son had a foot-long hot dog with all the fixins on it, and that was like $18.
Gee. Oh,
yep.
Man.
Yep. Hats in the team shop were $50.
Yeah, of course.
So I know there's inflation, and and the other thing that was frustrating, and I know these people are working, these people that are working out there, they deserve a fair wage. I'm not arguing that, but something has to give, because when I got my beer and my hot dog, and it cost me 20 some odd dollars, and then it's no cash at these places anymore, so you're using your card. So you put your card on the reader, and then it says, how much would you like to tip? And it starts at $15. And it's like, hey, I just paid $22 for a tiny little hot dog and a beer, and now you're asking me to tip on top of it. Like, a hot dog and a beer is going to cost me $30. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I think that I think that's a problem too. The games have to be affordable for people to come and see them. Now, I'm old enough to remember going to Cubs spring training games back in the day. It was $8 for general admission.
Yeah,
you could literally go. I saw Ichiro play the Cubs in spring training before his rookie season, and it cost $8 to get into that ball game.
Yeah, wow.
Right? And now general admission, at least for the Cubs, and I know these prices go up and down, but with the ticket fees and things like that because you got to pay through these services now. You can't just walk up to the window.
Yeah.
Right. $25 just for a general admission ticket. You want a seat, probably, $35, $50, $75 depending upon where you're at.
Yeah.
So it is getting more expensive, even in spring training, which is just shocking. I mean, the games don't matter. Everybody's just getting ready. And,
exactly.
the prices have really, really risen over the last couple of decades. So,
yeah, it really is a sad thing. I always thought that spring training should be the cheapest time you'll ever get to catch Major League Baseball, and it should, honestly. Like you said, it's a primer to get the season rolling. I think that Major League Baseball has to get out of the old ways of thinking financially, and I will go ahead and say it here, Chad. Blackouts as well. You need to end that stuff. Get more people interested in the game. I understand if you want to black out, a 10-mile radius around the stadium, get people, who are close to there going. But, oh, man, the blackouts that they have now, absolutely crazy. And, it's just you try and stay ahead. Ultimately, the NFL is where you're trying to hit. What the business model they have, the money they bring in. I know it's a different setup. I know it's a once a week, a couple times a week system, and that draws a lot of anticipation and people wanting to go. But, for baseball to try and be competitive with that, why are we, people can't go to a game consistently every day of the week and drop $100, $200, $300 in one day. It's just not a plausible thing, like you said, if we expect baseball to continue to grow. And I think it's, we can all say inflation, we can all say this and that, but at the end of the day, like you're going to start phasing out a lot of people. And then you're going to get to the point where even in Yankee Stadium, you're going, well, where are the fans? Fenway, where are the fans? Well, the average Joe can't afford to be there every day. And so, yeah, I'm with you. I think if Major League Baseball is going to they need to make adjustments. And I don't think I really don't think we need to do the robot umpire right now. I think I would really wish that they put a lot more energy into making the game affordable for fans to go to. So, yeah, who knows? In the end,
I agree, and I agree with you on the blackouts too. I mean, that's an entirely different issue. I mean, it's I grew up with the superstations, so you're watching the Cubs every day on WGN. Braves were on too.
Yep. TBS, baby. Woo!
I just chose to watch the Cubs, and that's what stuck for me.
Yeah.
But those got outlawed because the Braves and the Cubs just grew their fan base tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
And and that's really why the NFL is as big as it is. I mean, everybody growing up, you could pretty much watch whatever game you wanted to.
Yeah.
And so this out of market stuff or in market blackouts, we're blacked out from time to time. Like if the Cubs are on MLB Network, we're blacked out.
Yep.
And if it's not on the Marquee Network, which we're paying for, you're not watching the game. And it's like,
yeah,
wow. I mean, I'm on the, I can see South Dakota from my back door. So, I mean, I couldn't be further in the west in Iowa if I tried, and somehow we're blacked out over here because we have an Iowa zip code, right?
Yeah.
I have problems with the blackouts too. We're not driving to Wrigley Field or flying to Wrigley Field every weekend for a weekend series or anything like that. I mean, it's ridiculous. It is. If you want to grow the sport, then you got to make it available, and that's what the NFL's done really, really well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it is the biggest tragedy in the world that the fans in Iowa, could be blacked out of the Chicago Cubs, the White Sox, the Twins, the Brewers, the Royals. I mean, we're in the midst of a lot of teams, but boy, again, that's just how you going to grow the game?
It's shocking. It's shocking that we're not all Braves fans like you, Andrew.
Right. I mean, in the end, kudos, great job with the Braves. I think that honestly, the way things are going now, it's so hard to watch MLB games because it's not universal. And with ESPN going by the wayside after this year, you just go, oh boy, you're getting into, you're having to pay for yet another service. You're having to get into a niche channel, and again, like Major League Baseball is continuing to go back into the Stone Ages here, and you know what? I am with you. I really hope that Major League Baseball changes that and it addresses that. Far more than any robot umpires, I believe. But again, ladies and gentlemen, the Prospect Planner continues on here. We get the chance to talk. Again, we're talking more on the Major League side of things. We got boots on the ground here. Chad had the chance to go and catch up on a Cubs game and, of course, Arizona State game. And again, if you missed any of that, go back and check out all the conversation we had just then and there. Plus, head on over to YouTube for more. Hit under the RDA Prospect Planner tab. We got all of our great conversations there for you, so make sure to check that out today. Chad, while I got you on the phone here, I also wanted to ask you another thing here. Major League Baseball style. So I wanted to ask one thing here. And I want to get your take first, and I'll go ahead and respond here. But, I've had a couple people ask me as we've watched the Dodgers, just buy up talent. Kike Hernandez, Teoscar Hernandez, of course, Shohei Ohtani. You've got basically a third of Team Japan on the roster for LA now. And, of course, all that they have, again, whether it's deferred payments or not, you have a lot of talent from Freddie Freeman beyond on that roster here. And there's been the debate as, people coming out, whether it be MLB Network, whether it be Fox, whether it be just local stations here, claiming that this is great for baseball. That the Dodgers doing what the Dodgers are doing, arguably what the Dodgers have done before, what the Yankees have done before. So it's nothing necessarily new, but what they're doing is good for the game of baseball. I want your take here on what side of the fence do you lie on? Is what the Dodgers are doing, is it a benefit towards baseball as a whole? Does it actually do what people think it's doing?
Well, I think, Yankees have always been, I guess, what you could call a super team.
Yep.
And now the Dodgers have answered.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we've seen these super teams make it. Two of them made it last year, but the year before, the Rangers and D-backs, those were two teams that were unexpected. So I think that that's the great thing about baseball is you still have to have a team.
Yes.
If you have a team of superstars, that doesn't necessarily make them a great team, right?
That's
you
true.
have to have role players. You have to have guys that are doing jobs, and not always a group of superstars.
Yeah.
I think pitching is a little different. I mean, your day-to-day players, you've got to have some diversity in your lineup.
Yep.
Not everybody can be. If you have everybody just crushing home runs, and it's feast or famine at that point. But your pitching staff, if you're spending a ton of money and those guys stay healthy, you're gonna really run pretty far down the road there, if not make it all the way to the World Series and have a shot. And I think a lot of teams, they just play for that. They play for that postseason ticket, and if they get hot at the right time, they feel like they can take anybody down. And that's so you've got these teams like the Dodgers, like the Yankees. Then you've got other teams who also spend money, but they really use sabermetrics.
Yep.
And then you've got other teams that are just totally focused on the sabermetrics because that's what they're able to do with the market that they're playing in, right? So I would say, like, Boston and the Cubs are examples of teams that are in the middle. The Cardinals, another team that's in the middle, where they're using sabermetrics, but they're also spending money.
Yep.
But then there are those other teams where, are the Yankees spending time worried about OPS plus for some of the people that they're signing? Probably not. They're just looking at it from a standpoint of, is this person, how many home runs can this person hit, or how many strikeouts is the pitcher going to have? They're maybe not looking at the advanced metrics of these players because they're spending enough money, they don't really have to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that'd probably be my take on it. Is it good? Is it good for baseball? You know what? If you get a David and Goliath moment, probably is good for baseball.
Yeah. Yeah. And I get that. I get
kind of
that.
like after 9/11. Yeah. After 9/11, when the D-backs beat the Yankees, I mean, wow, what a deal. D-backs had the pitching. They had some good hitters, but they weren't necessarily the superstar team the Yankees were either. So
yeah,
it can happen. It can happen, but we'll see as time goes on here with the advent of the Dodgers running things the way their front office is. They're certainly giving the Yankees a run for their money. And I mean, I tell you, if you're not a Yankees fan, you probably hate the Yankees.
Yeah, a little bit. I get that.
You might like a couple of their players, but it's easy not to like them just because of how they run their organization.
Yep.
With the money that they spend, I think Americans in general like underdogs.
That's true.
So that's kind of where that comes from, I think.
Yeah. And I'm with you. I get it. I really do when it comes to that. The underdog part of it is something that's going to be, I think, it's always going to be there. It's something cool. For me, boy, it's kind of a little bit when I think about what the Dodgers are doing. Is it good for the game of baseball? I understand the point of, on the surface level, it should, like they say, light a fire under the butts of every team, right? It should. If you want to go out just like the Yankees, if you wanted to beat the Yankees, then go out and spend some money. Go the analytic route. Heck, make that happen. Be competitive in that route. And I mean, heck, from what was it, 2014 all the way what was that, 2011, 2012 to 2014 run for the Oakland Athletics and the early 2000s when they had that run. They had guys like 2014 Coco Crisp and you guys that weren't necessarily household names, but they put enough analytically in it. And I mean, the Athletics had done a fantastic job, still do, I think, to this day, of working the analytics into their favor. But that's one way to do it, and they've somehow mastered that. And I will give props because Oakland, you go back to 2014, the last time that I believe that they made a postseason run, or no, it was 2020 when they last postseason run. But even then, you look at 2018 to 2020, 2011 to 2014, when they had 3 consecutive postseason runs, and again, the most recent they had 2 wild card and a division series appearance. But every one of those years they were spending under $100 million. So I get that, right? So I see that part of it, but so I will go, and the reason I bring that up here, Chad, is because I exclude the A's from this conversation right now because they have mastered a way of getting average Joe Schmoes into a playoff caliber team, I feel. But the biggest thing I want to hit is, and every time somebody tells me, yeah, it should light a fire under everybody's butts, right? And I go, okay, to that point, I present you with the Pittsburgh Pirates. I present you with the Miami Marlins, with the Washington Nationals. Why do I bring those teams up? Because those are teams that have perennially been in the bottom 5 to 7 in terms of opening day payroll the past 10 years. And then, again, I bring up, you look at Miami. I mean, can you really tell me, Chad, that Miami's looking at the Dodgers and going, what are we doing with ourselves? We got to get rolling.
I
always say that, they're the youngest team on average in the league, and they've also had, I think right now as it stands, less than $50 million on their opening day payroll. So, and I also, and I bring up the Pirates here because the Pirates are the most frustrating team in the world for me. Up until, from the 90s into 2012, they went 20 years without a 500 or better season, right? And you look at the last time that the Pirates had signed a free agent to a multi-year deal, that was 2016. You remember Ivan Nova? He was the last guy that they signed to a multi-year contract as a free agent. And I looked at the numbers recently. In 2024, you had to go 7 players deep on the Dodgers roster just to get the highest paid player on the Pirates roster. And there are only 2 guys in 2024 for Pittsburgh that made $10 million or more. And I look at this and I'm dumbfounded. And I bring that up as a point as I kind of look at my grabbing my notes here. But again, 1993, 2012, 0 winning seasons, and right now as it stands, there are 7 teams under the $100 million mark. And I will exclude the Athletics. I'll even exclude Cleveland because they've made some recent purchases. Even Colorado has made a free agent multi-year deal signing. They've gone out and done that. And so you can exclude them because they've put in effort. But the Bob Nutting and the Pittsburgh Pirates ownership just has not. Miami has driven out Derek Jeter and Skip Schumacher because they have not been trying. So I look at this and I get it, but I feel in order for what the Dodgers are doing to light a fire under everybody's butts, every team has to be competitive then. They have to be trying to be competitive from an ownership standpoint, not just from the player standpoint. And so I partially agree with what people are saying on the surface, but I do not agree with it in the grand scheme of things because you have to have every team involved in it. And that's where I'm at. I'm a huge. I thought this for a long time that we need to as a MLB present a floor. You have to spend $100 million or more. Maybe you get a 3 or 4 year grace period, but you have to spend at least a minimum of $100 million. I don't know about your thoughts on that, but I think that we got to do more incentive for being competitive than we do, penalizing teams for spending.
Yep. Well, I think what I heard from what you said is an argument for a salary cap and a salary floor.
Right. Right.
And you have to the Cubs did this to build their World Series winner. I mean, they tried to do it again after they saw where those players were going as they matured. The Cubs cut bait, and probably rightfully so. It was disappointing to me personally, but it turned out to be probably the right thing to do. But you look at the White Sox. Oh my God, what a train wreck they've created! But the having a salary floor, I think, is important. I think if you do that, there has to be more revenue sharing that's going to go on.
Yep.
And then a salary cap would be helpful as well. I mean, this luxury tax is kind of a quasi salary cap, but it's not like it's a hard salary cap like the NFL. I think maybe in Major League Baseball it's harder to do that because you have guaranteed contracts. That's the other thing. The Players Association in the major leagues is much stronger than the Players Association in the NFL just if you're looking at it in terms of how contracts are structured.
Yep.
So, it really and honestly, I think that would you need to have some competitive leveling that goes on, and I think you can get there with those two things.
Yes.
And boy, when you brought up the Nationals, I'm sitting there and thinking about the MVPs that they've had that they didn't re-sign.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And two of those three that I can think of are still major stars. Probably going to be in the Hall of Fame, both of them.
Yeah.
Barring injury at this point. That being Bryce Harper and Juan Soto.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So yeah, I just it's tough to see. I mean, can you imagine if Chris Bryant went to Colorado and was an MVP?
Oh man,
playing for Colorado, what Cubs Nation would be saying about that. I mean, It's unfortunate that Bryant has been so injured and he hasn't been able to repeat what he's done previously. But holy moly, there would have been people calling for the ownership to change and things like that, just like with the Bears all season long, talking about McCaskies have to go and they've ruined this team and so on and so forth. And God rest Virginia McCaskey's soul. She doesn't have to listen to that anymore. But
yeah.
But anyway, don't want to get too far off topic here, but with these contracts, they're just going to keep getting bigger. And the other thing that if you want to make an analogy with, say, you look at the NFL teams that have had sustained success.
Yep.
Typically, you've got a player or two on that team that's renegotiating their contract to allow for more room under the cap for other star players to be signed, because that player wants to win a ring.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
So, we've seen that happen many times in the NFL. Could that start happening in the majors with these guaranteed contracts? Maybe. I know if you really wanted to win a world championship, things, if there was a salary cap, you would have some of that going on.
Yeah.
And the wealth would be spread out a little bit more than it is. Right?
Yeah.
It's one of those things that is going to be debated until the end of days. That's going to be debated. I don't necessarily have anything profound to say there, but honestly, you do need to look at other models and what other leagues are doing to say, how can this fit to make baseball competitive, where we don't have teams that are doormats anymore.
Yeah.
And everybody, when the season starts, has a legitimate shot to make the playoffs. And I think you can't say that about every single NFL team, but the percentage of the teams that have a legit shot to get to the playoffs in the NFL, percentage of teams in Major League Baseball that have a legit shot to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it truly is. You're so spot on, I feel, because I know that they're different sports, and different sports have different variables that they have to go through. But again, the model, I think, is there from the NFL. The model is there to try and emulate that. I think is important. I mean, again, the teams that spend the money, the ones that are competitive, they do win. They just do, or at least they show, or at least they're putting in analytics as well. I mean, in the end, you look all the way back to the Cubs. When they won the World Series, they were fifth in total opening day payroll in terms of highest payroll, fifth highest. The Astros a few years after that, they were, I think, 17th in payroll, but that was kind of the big blimp in all of it. I mean, you continue to go back, and you have to go maybe to Kansas City when they won and they had their World Series push in, I believe, 12 and 13 when they won the World Series. But again, I think forcing teams to put money out there is going to be, I agree with you, is going to be beneficial. And I do think a cap needs to happen. I don't think it needs to be this really low salary cap. I mean, on average, you can look out and say, hey, maybe we say 315 million is the max, or 300 million is the max that you can go to. And I still think that's very fair. That's very favorable. I mean, again, you have to go, I think, back to 2015, the last time that you had a salary for an opening day payroll that was over 300 million. So I do think, well, I should stop there and say this year you're going to have two New York teams that are over the $300 million mark. But
right.
But I mean, for the most part, you've got a lot of years you don't have a Juan Soto that you're paying a bunch of money to. So you're going to have that under 300 is not a hard ask, I think. But yeah, I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that, that insight, because I think you're right. Floor and a ceiling need to happen. And it's just a shame that, teams like the Pirates, the Marlins, the Nationals, it's a shame that they have pushed this issue to the point where we can't do it organically. But if you're Rob Manfred, I think now you have to do it. You have to put in the effort here. You have to make teams do that because, in the end, Bob Nutting and Pittsburgh ownership, they're banking $70 million a year here, and they're just fine. They're laughing to the bank all the way home, and they're not planning on being a competitive team. So, yeah, I think that's really cool to think about and have that conversation. And everyone out there, let us know your thoughts too. Give a like on this. Is what the Dodgers are doing, is that good for the game, bad for the game? How do you see it? Do you see it the way we do? If not, what could change, or why does it need to stay the same? We'd love to hear that and have that conversation. But for right now here, uh, Chad, I want to have us, excuse me, circle back to. I want to have us circle back just a bit to the high school game here, and I want to do it from a standpoint of getting college ready. You and I talk about a lot of time on this show that about what to do to get college ready, to get there. What thing, I love how you get the chance to go and talk with whether it's Casey Baker, others who know the game so well, have played it at a high level, and have a lot of technologies available that could be applicable to anybody out there. So we've gone through technology side of it. We've gone through just the morality side of it. But one of the things that you and I have at a base layer throughout all this is that both the parents and players know that they're all in on the sport. And they know that they're in, and they want to go through and you brought up a good point. Going through a lot of the services, these scouting services, it's not the only route to go. In fact, there's sometimes where it's not the best route to go. But I think that a lot of people get lost up in what we talk about is guys are already bought in. They're putting in the time, they're putting in the money, they're putting in the effort already to make baseball their prime, if not only sport. But I love the conversation you and I had recently that you know it's got to be that, and I think we lose sight of that sometimes. That if you're not all in there, maybe some of these sites, maybe some of these services are best to hold off a bit because in the end, what we try and do here is help you navigate where the best route to take so that you're not again spending all the money possible and you're getting the best bang out of your buck for whatever the case may be. So I did want to get your take and have you expand upon that here too, Chad, that it's not necessarily the best route always to go one way or another. Options are key.
Yeah, so it's certainly showcase season
Yep.
right now. So a lot of showcases are happening, have happened, and still in the month of March there'll be some showcases here in Iowa.
Oh yeah.
And I think rule number one is if you're going to a showcase, you need to have something to showcase.
That's right.
One of the tools has to be on display front and center. If you don't have something that sets you apart from the crowd, then you're probably better off spending that money, especially if you're, say, a freshman, sophomore, or even a junior, where you're in your junior January or February of your junior year.
Yep.
Maybe it's best to keep honing those skills and look at a fall showcase if you're a junior and you're not quite seasoned enough yet.
Yep.
And that's okay because in your junior year and you're going into the fall and you still haven't figured out where you're going to play college ball, that's okay. There's still time. And even for seniors right now, there's still time.
Yep.
Okay. Is a showcase going to help you if you have a skill to showcase? Yes. Okay. The other thing that it will do is it'll give you verified metrics, right? And then the other thing is it puts you around teams and that maybe looking for a specific position.
Yep.
And I think that you're, instead of the do-it-yourself approach, going to a showcase that's being put on by PBR, JUCO Route, Perfect Game, there are people there in those organizations that do know what the area schools are looking for, and they might you find a place to play if they know, hey, this team's looking for an outfielder, or this team's looking for a catcher, or this team every team wants pitching. If you're a pitcher and you're a good pitcher, you're going to find a home. Don't sweat.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't worry about that.
But and I think these recruiting services as well, they are connected. They do have an idea where they can call coaches and say, hey, what do you need? Where are you at with your infielders? Where are you at the catching position? We've got a great glove at first base and hits the ball a ton. Kind of an under the radar guy who's still developing, but we can project him to continue to improve moving into his senior season. That sort of thing. Those recruiters can help you with that. Now everybody claims that they have all kinds of connections, and I can't verify which services are the best and so on and so forth. You just got to make sure whoever it is that you're working with has been around the sport and is well known in the sport.
Yes.
And that will help. If you know their name going into it, you need to, when you're interviewing these recruitment places, you got to say, you tell me who you're talking to on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Are you planning on playing in Iowa? Right? If you're planning on playing in Iowa, does this college coach show up, or is this recruiting place going to that coaches convention and talking with the college coaches that are there? What's their network look like? And that's kind of hard to verify, right?
Yeah.
If you have access to some local college coaches, talk to them and ask them. Get opinions of what because these coaches know each other. They might be able to say good things. They might be able to say, I'm not sure if that school's a good fit for you. Use your network. I mean, that goes way back to the very first video that we ever did, which is, on Rofkin, not on YouTube, but that was one of the things that we talked about right out of the gate, is that the importance of networking. And shaking hands and saying hello and things like that, and being involved, I think helps as well. And hopefully you're in a program where your high school coach has connections too.
Yeah.
Your high school coach knows some college coaches and knows some college programs and things like that. I think that matters.
Yeah.
And if your high school coach doesn't, then you make sure that your network is getting built out by other means. So
you have to.
That's what I would say. Yeah.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly there. It in the end, I think too, you be strategic. But again, if you're sitting there, I know we all want our sons, our daughters to be number one at everything. We want them to, we want them to have the same passions about things that we have. In the end, though, they're just the always friendly reminder. Remember that they're a different person than you, and it's not always about your interests. They may have completely different interests than you, and I learned that. I learned that myself becoming a dad. It's been a very interesting path, but also, know if you're ready for it. If you're ready to buy in and go deep into it, and I would say don't go down the path of going into a service, going to the showcases, like Chad has mentioned before. if you're not ready to fully commit. I mean, if you're not ready to commit to the sport, don't commit to all these things. And it's okay. Look, I mean, it's not a bad thing if you don't, but you know, just like any sport, there's money, there's travel costs, there's all the hotel costs, food costs, all these different things that go into it. And in the end, it takes one of the most precious commodities you have away, and that's your time. You don't have an abundance of time to do everything with. So you got to. So if you're not sure that your son or daughter is going to stick with it, then I'd say wait until they do. Wait until they want to dive deeper. Because if you as the parent are doing that, there's a good chance that you're paying all this money for services, for events, for equipment that's going to go by the wayside, and you're just not recouping that money back or that time.
Yep. And I think too, at least for our family, a lot of times baseball time was family time, and that's a good thing, But I know not every parent is the same with their love for the game of baseball or their knowledge or their ability to help and to coach, because not everybody's a coach and not everybody's a baseball player, and not everybody has that interest.
Exactly.
But that's why you have to rely on other professionals sometimes, and that's a good thing. And I think it's it's always focus on the development first, and if the development happens the way you need it to, and you get to a point where you say, okay, we've got something to show off.
Yep.
Let's go to the showcase, right? Let's go to the showcase.
Yeah.
And get our name out there, and so on and so forth. And there are a million ways to do this. And also, development is not linear. You're going to have some leaps forward. You're going to have some steps back, and it's the physicality of the game and the demands of the game from a physical standpoint are one thing, and then there's the mental aspect as well. And you got to be able to approach that also, and manage that as well, the ups and downs of playing baseball. So that but that's probably another discussion for another day. But certainly when you're in showcase season, you got to think about okay, what am I going to showcase? Is it worth the money and the time and the effort, or should I delay, continue to develop, and mark it on my calendar that, okay, when August rolls around, I'm going to be doing some fall showcases.
Right.
Right. So
put yourself out there.
That's really
good way. Yeah.
Really where you want to be strategic about it.
Yeah. If you're not, then boy, things can go downhill quickly. I mean, we've all seen it, whether it's been from passion elsewhere or from somebody else, or just and I hate to say that, Chad, because I do want everyone to love the game. And I think but I think when you and I talk about this, when we have this conversation, I think that's a requirement to be in this conversation, that you have to love the game. Obviously, you're not playing it if you don't love it. You're not playing it if you're really against it. But we want everybody to love the game. And if you're going out there to just have fun with it, that's completely fine. But I think too, to your point, you got to be strategic about that. Are you, because you get in there now, you're putting dollars and cents to it. You're putting, or even more dollars and cents to it than, every time you put money to something, it gets real. And whether we all want to believe that or not, money does run a lot of things and a lot of decisions. So we all got to be careful when it comes to what we're doing, and like you said, being strategic. But again, I think it's safe to say that I love your point here. I want, as we wrap things up, I do want to highlight your point about how it can be family time. And whatever the sport is, I love that every time we have talked here, Chad, you have always brought up the point about that it has been something that your boys have loved to do, that you have loved to do. I mean, you were a college wrestler, and I'm sure that at one point there's, man, if I could get my boys to love wrestling too. But you went with where their passions ended up lying, and one of the things that really stands out to me as a dad of a 6 year old and a 3 year old, and I guess now a 7 month old, is that they haven't hit those big interests yet. They found a little bit here and there. They like soccer, they like baseball, but they haven't hit those big time interests and utilize their interest for quality time. Chad, I am not going to experience a teenager for quite some time yet, and at this point I'm okay with that. But there's so much that takes up their time as well, especially in today's social media world that we live in. It to take the interest and passions that your teenagers have, whether it's in sports, out of sports, whether it's basketball, hockey, swimming, whatever the case may be. I think you bring up a good point every time that it's always about what your boys want to do, the passions that they have.
Yeah, there's got to be interest there, and for sure. And yeah, it was tough when my boys were like, "Yeah, Dad, it's wrestling's not for us."
I bet.
But hey, that's the way it goes. I was enjoying the baseball with them anyway,
Yep.
and so that's where fate led us, and so that's where we're at, and we're just we've just kind of become a baseball family, and that's okay by me. I mean, I was a much better wrestler than I was a baseball player.
Yeah.
But I still love the game of baseball. I really do.
Yeah.
And so it was a good fit for our family, and we've enjoyed it. It's been a great experience, and I've certainly learned a lot along the way. And so have my boys and my wife and the rest of the family, and so
Yeah.
seems like yesterday they were playing t-ball, and now
Oh man.
now it's a whole different ball of wax. So
Oh.
we're having fun.
And you know what, Chad? It's just to see that the development change. I mean, what a whirlwind that has to be. And I say that only from I'm living vicariously through you right now, because I'm not quite there yet. But again, I think it goes to the point of loving what your kids love, loving where you're at, and making the most out of it. It can go a long, long way. And you know what? At the end of the day, you're their biggest support systems as parents. So might as well continue to latch onto that. But man, again, I guess moral of the whole overall story is make it a part of something. Make their interests some family time, and understand where your kids are. And it's okay, I think, Chad, to push the issue and say, "Hey, are you really interested in this?"
Yep.
I think especially once you get towards upper middle school, high school, like, is this something that you want to do, or is this something I should not put any money to?
Yep.
And I don't know. I wanted the last thing here is it okay to if you see interest? Say someone really, say your child really loves bowling, wants to go there a lot, but hasn't really put much thought into making it to that next level. You know, is there a line that you would draw? Is there such a thing as pushing too far? I mean, obviously, if if it starts to negatively affect them, yes. But is it okay to say, oh, okay, let's push this lead a little bit. Let's think about colleges. Let's think about this, even if they themselves haven't. Is it okay to push a little bit when it comes to that?
Well, I think it is to a certain degree, just so
Okay.
that you can find out their interest level.
Yep.
I think because I've had this conversation with both my boys
Hmm.
that hey, if this is your choice, then these are the actions that you need to do in order to make that choice for yourself.
Yep.
If you are not putting in the time and effort necessary into the sport to get you to the level where you're going to play college baseball, then just have fun.
Yeah.
And we won't do all of these other things. But if you want to play college baseball, here are the things that you need to work on. And I've had that discussion with both of my boys as they've grown up, and saying, okay, here's what the metrics look like. Here's what your performance needs to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what we need to put onto video if you're going to play college ball. And then we had a discussion about, okay, what level can we play college ball at?
Yeah.
And in order to be at a D1 level or a junior college level or D3 and anywhere in between, where do your metrics need to be? Where does your performance need to be when you're playing in a real game? And I think that's a big separator as well, as performance when you're playing the actual game. Because metrics are one thing, but that doesn't mean it's repeatable in a game.
Yep.
Right. So, if you got a great pop time and you're not throwing out runners, well, you got a great pop time, but you can't do it in a game.
Yeah, you got to make it actionable.
Right. And so you do, and I think a lot of parents too need to be realistic, because you run into parents sometimes that, my kid's doing this, that, or the other thing, and you go, are they really? Or is that where you want them to be? Right. And I'm sure when I say that, I guarantee you there are coaches out there that are going, yep, oh yeah, I've heard that before.
Exactly.
Right?
What's your want versus actual desire?
Yeah. My kid throws 87, but actually he throws 82.
Right? The little fib.
Yeah. So it's just kind of one of those things, and if you're going to be a parent and you're not going to be honest about your kid's ability, you're going to spend a lot of money needlessly.
Yep.
So that could be costly for you. And so I think it's important to have a good gauge of where your kid's ability is, and can they succeed.
Exactly. And all of it is individualized. It's all based off of where your child's at, where your athlete is at, and again, we are here through the Prospect Planner to try and make this as much as we can easier for you. Again, this is the pursuit of that college game and beyond, and it's the pursuit of things that help that, from technology to showcases to, even like we mentioned, possibly reining back on certain things, not doing it, gauging where your child is at. So hopefully this has been helpful for you when it comes to all this. Again, whether you're catching this right here through the full show or clips that we put on social media, I hope you can get the chance to catch it all, and not just what we're doing, not just this, but other stuff that we have. And again, we're working to get everything that we've had both on Rokfin and on YouTube, so you can go ahead and catch that. And again, the YouTube page, you go on there and go to the RDA Financial tab, and it's right there. The Prospect Planner is right there. You can catch up all the stuff and all the great tips and tricks we've had over the years. So, but with that here, Chad, man, time has certainly flown by. Love the fact that we got to chat more MLB. I think that I realize that I don't get to do that as much as I really want to. Having someone who's been there, done that, seen that, I think it's a really important. So Thanks for talking some MLB talk with me, as well as helping everyone out with what their son or daughter is going through to the high school ranks.
Yeah, you bet, Andrew. I appreciate it, and I enjoy talking baseball. Doesn't matter what level. I could go all day. So
Yeah.
thanks for that, and we'll see you next time.
Yes, indeed. And hey, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to, don't forget, again, right on the RDA Financial Prospect Planner tab, a lot of stuff there, more to come, and your thoughts. Anything you want to hear about, we want to talk to you about. So make sure to check that out. Give us a thought. Go ahead and hit us up, iabaseball1@gmail.com. Right here is the email. You can go ahead and hit us up, and under the title Prospect Planner, anything else, any topic, or anybody we should talk to or talk about. We would love to hear that from you. We've already gotten a couple of them. This go around was part of that topic, so really appreciate Matthew for doing that and sending that out to us as well. So keep it coming. But until we see each other next time, I want to say thank you for myself, Chad Erickson, and everybody here for iBaseball and the Prospect Planner. And until we see each other next time, stay safe on the base pass. Thanks again, guys.